guys, it's Paula from PSE Creations. Welcome to my channel if you're new, and welcome back if you're returning. Today's video is a flip through of another, wait for it, sewing themed junk journal. I have so much fun making these. I'm going to probably share every single one that I make. Maybe, kind of, sort of. If you want me to do a process video from start to finish on a sewing theme journal that I make, let me know in the comments and I'm happy to do that. I've done bits and pieces, I think, but I'm happy to do a start to finish one that's a little simpler. So this one here, I did share the process video. I will link it right here. It should be available already in live on how I made the cover. I used a popcorn box. Yeah, a popcorn box, some fabric, and then the vintage sewing pattern pouch for the front and the back. So let's go ahead and get started. One difference of this journal to other journals that I also have made is this is the first time that I'm doing one where the orientation is this direction. So all my journals obviously open from right to left. However, this one is shorter. So let me show you, because I used the pouch that had the directional ladies for the clothing pattern vertical. So this one measures, it is 8 1/4 by, I guess, 5 3/4. So wow, it's not that that thin. But usually, you know, my journals are taller than wider, right? So it has a 2-inch spine. Whoa, that's really close. Sorry. It is a 2-inch spine. It is hidden, just because I put the fabric on after the fact. So you would have seen that on my process video that it didn't have fabric after I sewed in the signatures. It does have 3 signatures. And yeah, so let's get started with a flip through. So it's the tie is just a seam binding that's been coffee dyed, and it does have this little ruler sewing notion charm on it that with a bowl pin that can be moved somewhere else. Again, 3 signatures. It is sewn all the way around. And here's some vintage rickrack that I thought just went so well. I need to make sure that I'm staying in frame because it's a different orientation. And I do have little metal book corners on here, on each of the corners. And then the back obviously is the back part of the sewing pattern. The sewing pattern is from 1969, I think. Hold on. Yeah, I'm pretty sure 1969. And then again, this is the front of the sewing pattern pouch. Okay, so it is long. Let me see if I could raise this a little bit so that you can actually see the whole thing. Almost the whole thing. Let me see. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Just trying to get the whole thing in the picture for you guys. Okay, that's good, right? Okay, I hope so. All right, so on the inside, like I said, it's an orientation going this way. So all my papers are going to be directionally showing that way. So here I have some vintage lace that I sewed in on the front and the back cover. And I used a masterboard that I had, backed it with some lined paper, sewed all the way around, and just made like a giant journaling card. So I say giant because it is 7 1/4 by 5 1/4. So, and I do have a little sewing notion here, and then a just little dapper little young man here, and some cutout from the instructions of a sewing pattern. Might not be this particular one that I use, but they are instructions. And then the rest of it is a collage because it was a master board. So this is so you'll see that I had to, because I was making the pages long, right? I had to Frankenstein most of my pages to make them long. So I did that. You'll see a lot of that here, but it's all sewn together, and then it's sewn into the book cover. So this is just a piece of scrapbook paper, but it's a lightweight single-sided scrapbook paper. And here I made a little pocket with the excess. Oops. Little pocket with the excess. And I had two of these little, actually it's one large like time card from Dollar Tree, I believe, that's been coffee dyed. And then I just added sewing notion stamps and a little bit of the, what is this called? The pattern paper. And then I sewed that on. So it's a little journaling spot here. I kept the threads here, but obviously if you don't like that, you can cut it off. And on this one, it's a little bit of a fabric that I added to it. And then again, it's a sewing notion stamp, and then a washi sticker of a dapper lady. And again, in the back, you'll have room to do some journaling or decorate it more, however you want. This is from a sewing magazine. No, it's a quilting magazine. Yeah, quilting magazine. Some vintage lace that's been sewn on here. This is packing paper, and all I did was just add a little sewing notion stamp right here. And on this side, I sewed a little bit of vintage trim that I thought just went well with the colors, right? It was like that brown, orange, green, blue. It's a variation of colors. This is some vintage map page and a little sewing notion here. It's little buttons. And this is another Frankenstein page. However, on this one, I Frankensteined this part of the page. So I had a music sheet, and I just added a little strip of typewriter paper that's been coffee dyed that I had. I had a stamp here, and I just, with my colored pencil, just colored in this beautiful lady stamp. Here's some just lined paper, and I just added a little paper flower right there. This is some wallpaper, and you can definitely do something. I feel like there is some tape or something right here. Oh, there is. Okay, I got it. We're good. You can definitely do something here if you'd like. I decided not to because I did on the inside. I added a coffee dyed glassine envelope, and again, there's had a stamp of a lady, and a sewing notion. I did color her in with my colored pencils. Let me make sure I get that. And then in the pocket, I just added this index card that's been coffee dyed that I kind of collaged with different sewing notions. So this is a piece of fabric, as well as this. This is a piece of the instruction manual. This is a little piece of another sewing packet. And so you'll have room to decorate there. I'm sorry, collage journal. That's the word I'm looking for, journal. And then this is just a guest check that's been coffee dyed that you can decorate. We have coffee dyed. This might be avocado dyed or coffee dyed. This has been Frankenstein right here, so you'll see that. These are instructions for this sewing pattern. That's the middle of our signature. Dictionary of Sewing Terms. That's what this is. Dictionary of Sewing Terms. And we're going to move on. We're going to continue. So this is the other side of the wallpaper. I added a little bit of cardstock right here, and I added, she's a fussy cut from another sewing pattern. And then I did create this tag here. This is just a piece of, what kind of fabric is this? Upholstery fabric on a paper clip. And I just added it to hold this tag here that I made. So again, I recycle food containers. So you will see brown and sometimes white. But it's another cutout of another sewing pattern. Add a little bit of fabric down here. This is sewing tissue. And then these are buttons, like the snap buttons. It stamps. I thought it was really cool. Okay, and that just goes right there. Here's the other side of the Frankenstein music sheet. The map page, and over here I added just a little bit of a ruffle from using the sewing pattern tissue. Again, the packing paper and another sewing notion right here, stamped. This is the magazine page of the quilt, and this is the not the cardstock, the scrapbook paper, which was the first page, and it just flips out so you have additional writing space. Or you can just cut this off if you want it, and then you can use this as a pocket somewhere. I mean, you can do whatever you'd like with it. The second signature starts off with another lightweight single-sided cardstock. No, scrapbook paper. Gosh. And on here, I fussy cut, again, 3 ladies from another sewing pattern pouch. I try to keep the colors kind of the same throughout the book, but, you know, sometimes that doesn't happen. This one flips out as well. You can't see it, but it flips out. So again, this could be cut out if you wanted to and used somewhere else within the book. This is a dictionary, vintage dictionary page. I just added, again, another lady from another sewing pattern that was fussy cut. And then up here, I just added a little strip of the sewing tissue paper. A little bit of the sewing tissue paper I added right here too. I just thought it went well. This is copy dyed paper, and it's just a little stamp of the sewing notion. Lots of writing space, like most of my journals. This is another quilting magazine page. 9-patch variation, it says. This is a colorful page, though. Look at this. Isn't that cool? I know it's a little glossy, but that's the coolest thing ever. Can you imagine having a quilt that had all these little designs on it? Anyhow, packing paper, and I added just a stamp of the sewing notion. It's a vintage sewing machine. This is a different map page, vintage map, National Geographics. I thought I had the year on this one, but some more of that vintage white lace that's sewn on. This is ledger paper, computer ledger paper from the 1980s. Some lined paper, and again, another piece of the sewing dictionary of terms, sewing instructions, in other words. Some more vintage music. This is the middle of the second signature. So we can just move through this. Look at how cool this is. Like if you didn't want, you know, you can also cut this up here and then you can use that for something. So again, lots of writing space in here. This is just a little cluster that I made. So I had to cut off her legs. So I just made her into a little cluster with some lace and a vintage button and some of the pattern tissue paper. And she's a fussy cut from another sewing pattern pouch. Okay. I'm hoping that I'm staying in frame this whole time. More tissue paper. Here's another page of that. The other side of the magazine page. Tulip and calico. Fitted tablecloth. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Does anybody else look through those magazines and just reminisce? I mean, some of them are before my time, so I'm not really reminiscing, but just thinking, oh, the beauty that was there. This is the other side of the dictionary page, and on this side, I did add a little bit of that same lace that I have on the front cover, and I did create this journaling card. So a little bit of fabric up here, some sewing notions. It's backed with that tissue paper, and it's just a journaling card that fits right snugly in here. And again, this flip out here so that you can have more writing space or do whatever you'd like with it. And the last signature, this is the single-sided, lightweight scrapbook paper. Again, it flips out. We have this lady here. She's on the other side of the map, vintage map page. I just flipped it over so that the blank side of the map page was on the outside. This is just a little fabric flip with some vintage lace sewn up at the top on this packing paper. I like to recycle what I can and when I can. You know, I had a lot of packing paper. I just think it went well. I think that there's a lot you can do with packing paper. Here is at least one of my junk mailer pockets that I like to make. So here is, it's just collaged right here with some music sheet. It's on a vintage, this is a magazine, one of the quilted magazine pages. So this is May, June of 1982. And this is a vintage sewing machine stamp. And we just did some collaging. So this is a cutout. Again, her arm is missing right here. So I added this right there, and then I cut her legs off and just added the simplicity, which was the other part of this right here, and then the number of the sewing pattern. And this has like the size and the bust of the sewing pattern. A little bit of fabric tab right here. And again, it's one of those recycled food container journaling cards. And it fits just right in here. Just right in here. It fits fine. Okay, there we go. Lined paper. Here's another piece of that. Computer ledger paper. Coffee dyed paper. Here's some music sheet, and there's another cutout, fussy cut from another sewing pattern. Here is a little bit more of that white vintage lace. Lined paper is the middle of the signature. This is coffee dyed paper, sorry. And this was Frankenstein, so you'll see it. I added just a little piece of the same cardstock scrapbook paper that I used here for the first sheet of the third signature. I added just a little strip right there to cover the sewing, but if you flip the page, you'll see the sewing on this side right here. So I think it added a nice little separation there. I thought about doing that to all of them, but I said, why? I want to show that I had to Frankenstein some stuff together. Vintage music that's been coffee dyed. Here I took the flap of the sewing pattern and just added it to a cardstock and then sewed it around so that I can make a little pouch. And so these are just stamped sewing notions on coffee dyed paper, and then these are just reproduction little labels or notepads that are small. I thought they fit nicely in here. I may add a few more things to this journal, like paper clipped a few more like ephemera, like some vintage ephemera, maybe checks and things like that you can use to decorate it a little more if you'd like to. Lined paper. Here's another page of that magazine, the crochet quilt magazine. And this is the other side of the, oh, I already forgot the name. Packing paper. Packing paper. Here is a little sewing notion bust stamp. And then this is just a little bit of washi tape. I thought it went nicely there, so that's where I added it. A little bit of that, like a little ruffle. It's not a sewn ruffle. It's a glued ruffle using the sewing pattern tissue paper on the vintage map. And then the last page has a little pocket, and I did the same thing that I did with the first one, which was take these punch cards from the Dollar Tree. And again, it's a little grungy looking because it was coffee dyed or tea dyed. These might have been tea dyed actually, because my tea dyed turns out a little grungier than my coffee dyed for some reason. But anyways, so I have this dapper young man here. It's a washi sticker, a little bit of that tissue paper as the tab. It's very thick tissue paper. I've never seen tissue paper. I've never dealt with tissue paper this thick. It's not your traditional sewing pattern tissue paper. This one seemed a lot thicker. But anyways, and then a little button sewing stamped, and here is little sticker of two ladies. This is not washi. This is more like it's a glossy. A little bit of the tissue paper there too. Little needle sewing notion, and then some fabric on the top. And again, these are sewn, but you have definitely writing space on the back here and on the front if you wanted to. Okay, And then the last is the pocket on the back, which again is a master board that I had. I added this young man here as a washi tape sticker. And we have some scissors, a sewing notion. This is again a master board that I just cut out from a master board that I had. This is a little bit of wording from the tissue paper that I just added to it. And again, paper was backed with lined paper in the back that's been coffee dyed, or no, this was tea dyed. I know that for sure because this was done recently. And then sewn all the way around as a larger journaling card that fits right here. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this flip through. I had so much fun making this direction. I will say it's the same direction, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're still opening your book left to right. I'm sorry, right to left. But for some reason, I think it's because you have to Frankenstein the pages together. And then just do things slightly different, in my opinion, different than what I'm used to doing. It's just a brain thing, right? I'm doing something differently than what I'm used to doing. So it took me a little bit longer to get this one done. Not by much, but I did have to think through it a little bit more. Even making the cover, I had to think through it a little bit more. Just because of what I chose to use, which was, again, a popcorn box. Anyhow, if you're interested in this journal, I will have it posted with additional pictures, and this video will be linked to that posting on my website as well. And my website will be linked in the description, and I will have it somewhere somewhere around here. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you guys on my next video. Bye, guys.